Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. I am going to say this because I've been thinking about this lately and then saw a video that also made it clearer, right? Because I've been saying that these people voted against their own interests, which is actually true, right? But then I found out that why they voted was because it was going to be for their own interest, not against their own interest, right? But then it did not meet their expectation. Their expectations were cut short. Because tell me how Arab Muslims, like how they convinced them that they were going to bring peace to them in Gaza and other places. To tell you how shallow minded some people are, they believe. Even why the man said that, his campaign also was saying that I am going to turn Gaza, I'm going to turn Gaza to resort and all that. He also said it. But their mind did not tell them that there is need for us to investigate. To them, this man is better than Kamala Harris. To white people, tell me how they actually believe that our veterans and the rest of them, that our Kamala Harris is not a good candidate for them, but the other person is. They all did that because they thought that whatever, no matter what happens, that they will not be affected. It will start from people that look like me. They knew what was ahead, but they never knew it was going to start with them. You know what? Let's get into this video.
One of the arguments that constantly gets under my skin is when I hear people say that Republicans are voting against their own interests. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they are. When we look at things in the context of how Democratic voters look at things, yes, we can say that Republican voters are voting against their own interests because a lot of them are voting for a platform that doesn't benefit them in any way, shape, or form. For example, when it comes to LGBTQ Republicans that like to say that they're voting for the Republican Party because they believe in individual rights, that to me is a bullshit argument because you're voting for a party that literally tells you that you can't choose to be with who you want to be with, i.e., your party does not stand for individual rights. But even beyond that, I think that this idea that they're voting against their interests, we're not taking into account that their interests are not the interests that we have. For a working class person, yes, the Democratic Party's platform is more beneficial to you. If you are a typical working class 9 to 5 individual in this country, Democrats and their platform would benefit you the most because the Republicans don't give a fuck about you as a working class person. But a lot of these working class people, and that's how they like to frame it when they're talking about white voters, because no one else is considered working class for the sake of politics and how it's discussed in the United States. They hear the Republicans scapegoating and gaslighting different groups of people, and instead of them acknowledging that the Republican platform is the reason why a lot of them are struggling, they listen to the red meat conversations that are being had by Republicans concerning these groups of people that they believe are taking their job. Yes, this is an ignorant argument. It's an ignorant way of thinking, but in their ignorant way of thinking, they're rationalizing the fact that the Republicans are warning them of who the enemy is. These immigrants that have literally no power to do anything, instead of blaming the people that actually have the power, a lot of these Republican politicians that could ensure that these people have the jobs that give them some stability and equity. In other situations, like Arabs and Muslims that voted for Donald Trump this election cycle, a lot of people focus on the conversation believing that Donald Trump would be better for the situation over in Palestine than Kamala Harris, which to me blows my mind still to this day why anyone would believe it. But there was a content creator, I believe he's also Arab, who went around Michigan to predominantly Arab and Muslim, primarily men, and asked them who they were going to support in the last election. Not many said Kamala Harris. I think it was probably like maybe two that said Kamala Harris. The others said they were not going to vote at all or they were going to vote for Donald Trump. Now, the reason that they gave, now I thought would be the reason that they would give would be the dumb reason that they believed that Donald Trump would be better for the situation in Gaza than Kamala Harris. But that wasn't the reason that they gave. Most of these men The overwhelming majority of them that said that they were going to vote for Donald Trump said that they were going to vote for him because they believed that he was anti-LGBTQ. Now, Donald Trump isn't anti-LGBTQ, even though he surrounds himself with homophobes and transphobes. Donald Trump still sees gay money as money. Donald Trump is an opportunist. Whoever's going to give him the most money and kiss his ass the most, he's going to go with them. But just think about that, right? You see a lot of Arabs and Muslims, primarily in Palestine, experiencing a literal ethnic cleansing campaign. And the rationale that you use to support this man that says that he's going to make it worse for these people in Gaza, in Palestine, the reason that you use to justify voting for him is because of your hatred towards LGBTQ peoples. Again, we see them prioritizing things that they think is a great interest to have. They're not voting against their interests. They're voting for something that they prioritized as their interests, as a thing that motivates them to show up for a particular party or a particular candidate. What the Democrats have to do, what Democratic voters have to understand about a lot of these people is hate and ignorance motivates them to vote the way they vote. They're not stupid. A lot of these people are not stupid. They're just bigots. And they don't vote the way they vote because they're taking into account what that vote will do to harm different groups of people. You understand? They don't care about the harm that will be inflicted upon other people. What they care about and what they ultimately regret is the harm that's being inflicted upon them because of the choices that they made. And even when they regret the choice that they made because it's now harming them, oftentimes they still don't hold accountable the people that caused the actual harm to them. They look for other scapegoats to blame. White leftists are no different from white conservatives. I'm going to say this and clarify this because I don't want it to be missed on anyone, because a lot of the faux revolutionary, perpetually online leftists seem to allow things to go over their head, and they intentionally act obtuse for the sake of just being fucking stupid. White leftists are no different in how they view black leftists that come into their predominantly white spaces and they call themselves leftists. Black leftists have to go above and beyond to prove their loyalty to this leftist ideology in order for them to be seen as a leftist. And if they don't just basically call themselves outright communist or socialist, anti-capitalist, they are immediately alienated from that leftist ideology because they're not leftist enough for those white leftists. I find that funny because a lot of these white leftists come from conservative families. They benefit from conservative values, which is why a lot of them don't criticize Republicans and conservatives, because that's their family members. They have so much smoke for the Democrats because they were raised and conditioned in a conservative Republican household, and that conditioning is still there. That disdain that they have for the Democrats from their conservative Republican upbringing is still inside them. That's why when they come online and they criticize the Democratic Party, it seems like their criticism is one-sided because they don't offer much criticism towards the Republicans. That's part of the reason why, because they grew up and they still have ties to their very conservative Republican-leaning family members, a lot of them being their parents. So that's why when we say things like Kamala Harris is to the left of Bernie Sanders and her Senate record reflects that, it's very difficult for them to accept that because Kamala Harris isn't calling herself a democratic socialist. She's simply voting to the left of Bernie Sanders. And for them, that doesn't matter. We don't care about that. None of that means anything to them because everything about them is performance and showing up for a speech or showing up for a protest. They don't actually care about getting things accomplished, because they like having something to complain about. They like having something that mobilizes them to set their camera up and complain about the current state of the country, even though they do nothing to fix it. They think that showing up every 4 years and voting for Jill Stein is doing more than actually voting for a Democrat that can give them some of the things that they want, most of the things that they claim to want. So they would rather allow this regressive politician that's going to hurt so many different people to win simply because they want to be able to say that they didn't vote for the establishment candidate. Because a lot of them live in theory. They live in theory. I've asked on so many occasions from those that have socialists or Marxists or communists in their bio to give me one country that is a socialist Marxist nation that doesn't also abuse the citizenry. And I've never gotten a response. I've never gotten one. You have at least 5 examples that you can point to, that you can actually look at the country and see if they're abusing the citizenry, that are communist, Marxist, socialist nations. And you never give examples of how your theory, when it's implemented into reality, how it benefits the people in those nations. The reason why they will never give you an answer to that question of which socialist nation, communist nation, Marxist nation doesn't abuse the citizenry is because they know that when it's applied to reality, these people also abuse citizens. They also abuse the working class. And they also consolidate wealth with the 1%. Everything that they claim to be against about capitalism also occurs in socialism, Marxism, communism with these communist leaders. So what they do instead is they continue to theorize things to you of what theory says that these things are supposed to be. Again, proving that they don't actually live in reality. And that always is going to be their problem with Black people. We live in reality too much. We understand that if things go awry in this nation, that we have nowhere to go, that we will be the one that get the brunt of the consequences if things go awry here. They don't have to worry about that because a lot of them are white people that have money, that come from wealthy family members, and they know that no matter what, they're going to be fine, no matter who wins. So they can live in theory. They can live in this faux reality that they have concocted in their brain where socialist leaders have taken care of the people. We don't have that flexibility. And they know that, but they don't care because they don't actually care about us. And that's why I will always tell these people to go fuck themselves, because I know that a lot of them are just fucking racist, white supremacists, and they don't give a fuck about Black people and Black prosperity. All they care about is cosplaying as faux revolutionaries online. That's the only thing that they care about. Making money. Capitalism. And I also find it odd that a lot of these people that call themselves communists, Marxists, socialists in their bios don't live in those nations. They live usually in Western nations that are capitalists. Ask yourselves why.
You know, anything I ever learned about being in the streets in like any type of movement work, anything like that, I've learned how to navigate from Black women in the Black community in general. And one of the first things I picked up on years ago and learned was that white people are the biggest liability at any march, any protest, within any movement. And so, as April 5th draws closer, and a lot of white people are getting out and protesting for the first time in their lives, y'all need to understand there are going to be white people that show up as agitators. And this is going to prove how not trustworthy we are as white people. And we've heard that, right? And I've seen a lot of white people crashing the fuck out because everyone outside of white people is saying, hey, we don't know which one's which. And again, I say this every day, we fit the description, right? So you don't think there's going to be Trump supporters or far-right people that try to infiltrate any of these protests across the country? You can't tell as a white person which other white person might do that. And so shit is about to get real interesting. And I've seen a lot of white people showing up at their first protest and be like, oh my God, that was so fun and so encouraging and invigorating. And that's cool. I mean, I remember running from the National Guard and the cops and other government agencies, and that shit was not like a vacation. But now, y'all have to understand, shit is going to get real quick. And a lot of you aren't ready for what this could turn into. I'm just being honest. And additionally, I remember one of the Black leadership in Louisville being like, a lot of white people treat this shit as a vacation, come in and then get people that are not white hurt while we got to run away and just be safe. And that's what you have to understand too. If there are people that are not white that show up with you, the cops are going to go for them first. There's a lot of etiquette. There's a lot of shit you need to know about being in the streets, about doing this the right way. This isn't, again, if the cops show up, if the military shows up, wherever, because this is supposed to be across the country, this isn't just going to be like a high five, good job. Like, shit might get real. And people are going to get hurt. That potential is always there. And again, you think that everyone you show up with as a white person is trustworthy. You don't know who's out there who wants to get a Kyle Rittenhouse moment in there. You have to be very aware of who you are around. You have to keep your head on a swivel. See who the fuck is doing what. You got to keep other white people in check. Like, it's a lot bigger than just, we showed up, I walked a mile, and I did my job. Because right now they've been relatively peaceful. But the more the numbers grow, and the more they see unrest, all it takes is for one fucking person to set this shit off. And I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying be very fucking aware of who the fuck is around you and who's showing up and who's doing what. Because again, we as white people can't even tell which other white person is.
This is all I got from this video, and I really do not know what people were expecting. These people, Latinos, and every one of them, I don't know what they were expecting from the administration they voted for. Because tell me how Palestinians, Muslim Arabs, and all of that, tell me how they voted for this, and they were I don't know what they were expecting to happen. And they made it clear that they are very confident that it was going to be, or it's going to be a good, it was going to be a good one for them, because they promised them peace. They promised them so many good things. That is to tell you how majority of the people do not even understand who they are voting for. And some of them never, I didn't know, but like, tell me how they brought out two humans to you, and you really know that one can actually do better no matter what. And you were told, because majority of you went out campaign against the other person, and in the end you all are seeing the results. Majority of white people actually told or kind of promised black people that we are going to vote for blue because we cannot stand the other person, right? And in the end, what happened? They still went ahead to vote who they wanted to vote for. And now black people are going to be the one to help you all out. Or see, I am not going to say that these people voted against their own interests, because whatever they voted for was, they voted because they thought it was going to be for them, like for their own interest, right? And then karma hit real instantly, and it's whooping their butts and ass front and back. And that is really very cool for them. Let them continue to wallow in their ignorance. Because it is okay for you to be good. I mean, like, life is supposed to be good for you. Life is supposed to be amazing for you, because that is what you subscribe for, right? But it's okay for every other person to probably, like, not be okay. And the fact that the people that they've been oppressing too refuse to understand that their oppressor are using them baffles me. Like, it's really it's mind-boggling. that you see people oppressing you straight up in your face and you refuse to acknowledge it, and still you want to be in community with them. That shows how ignorant you are as a person. And that shows how much low self-esteem you have. Because if you know your worth, you will never ever align with your oppression to oppress other people. Because why would you? You did that because you thought Black people were the ones benefiting from everything that has been going on, because it's really obvious. Because tell me how people, like, they have been telling you people about the implications and that the results that will come after you might have voted for this person, and you all still did not feel like there is need to backtrack. You all did what you did, and the fact that you all also did it against your own families, because most people voted against their own families, voted against their own colleagues, voted against the people they also that work for them too. Because white people voted because they wanted the best, not knowing that the migrants will leave and they will not have people to farm there, do their house chores and farm for them. The Latinos voted because they want to be in community with white people to benefit all the things that come with being a little bit lighter and all that, without knowing that that was going to cost them. Or they knew. It's just them being ignorant. Let's try and see how it happens. Now, it is all over. And April 5th is almost here. Today is 1st. The best I can tell my people is still enjoy yourself at home. Let them go and do what they are supposed to do, because you all have been doing it for them all these years. It's time for you to rest. Let them go do the job. Because it's a different thing that you are there and a different thing that they are there. I love my people and I don't want to hear stories. So let's continue to stay at home. I love you all and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.